guys, this is Jacko Buddy with breakblock.org, coming with you with part 6 of our Game Maker tutorial for the game Maze Man that we've been making. Hard to believe we're already up to part 6, especially for those of us who are just now learning Game Maker. You've gone from staring at a window not knowing what to do to having a little game you can already play. Now today what we're going to be looking at doing is first I'm going to kind of go over the homework I assigned at the end of the last video for making the second coin. And then we're going to be adding a restart button in case a player gets stuck. And we're going to have it count how many times the player moves to complete the level. And then down the road, we're probably going to make it to where if you go over a certain number of moves, you can actually fail the level. But that's going to be for a part a little further down the road, probably part 7. So we're going to go ahead and go over, first of all, the thing that I assigned last time, adding the second coin object. Now, basically, all you needed to do for that was we created a second sprite, and I called it SPR coin 2, and you can see I made it blue instead of yellow, and I just kind of cleaned up my image a little bit. And then after that, I just made a new object, which is object coin 2, and nothing needs to be inside of it other than setting your sprite to the correct image. And then we went into our player object. We took our object coin event and we just duplicated it over, or you can rewrite it, whatever's easier for you. And then you just need to change this to be 250 instead of 100, or whatever value you want it to be. You may want to do 500 instead of 100. Just kind of depends on how many points. But I made mine worth 250. Well, this one's only worth 100. And so we can go ahead and run it real quick. And it's going to take a minute to compile. Alright, and we got a little game. I can move around, and you'll be able to see that I can pick up the new coins now. There's one. And you can see they're scattered a few throughout my level. It'll place a few of my other coins. You win, and I got 2,700 points. So that's a little coin from last time. If it's still giving you some trouble, feel free to play with that more, or drop me an email at my email address at the bottom of this video, and I can guide you through it a little bit more if it's still confusing to you. But for the rest of us, we're going to go ahead and progress on. First thing we're going to do is add a restart button, and actually I'm going to relaunch our game real quick just so I can show you why exactly we need a restart button on this game. And as your puzzles become more complex, if I'm a silly player and I move down and I move over here, no matter what I do now, I can't get out of my starting zone, so I'm kind of stuck. And at first it seems like bad level design, but maybe that's what you want to do with your game, is have ways where if you hit the wrong button, something like that, you can actually get yourself, stuck like that. So what we're going to do is we're just going to design this to where the player can restart their game. And so let's see. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and go to our object player. And if you recall, we had these press events down here. Now, the issue with the press event, if you'll recall, right here, I believe I've talked about this a little bit before, but the keyboard events, whenever it's like left or right, that's assuming that you are holding down the key. And so if you hold down our restart button, it's just going to continually restart, 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 restart. So we're going to do a key press, which means when the key goes down on the keyboard, it runs the event, and then it only runs it that one time, and to run it again, you have to release the key and then hit the key again. So that way they can't just hold down the restart button and restart the level 600 times and be very confusing. And then we're going to go down to letter, and we're going to select R on the keyboard. R for restart. Nice and simple. Should be easy for players to remember. And then let me see. What we're gonna use, here it is, in main 1 tab on the right side, you're gonna have your room functions, and you're gonna see this one right here, the little box with the arrow going up into it. That's restart room. So we're gonna go ahead and put that down, and that really is all it takes right there. That's gonna restart whatever active room we're in. So if we have more than one level made in this game, then we'll be able to restart the level. So like I'm going to move over here and hit R, and see it restarted. R restart, R restart. So that way if you get stuck, you can just restart everything, and that'll be kind of nice for the players, That should be Yeah. Okay. So we got that. Now what we want to do is we want to count how many times the player moves, and so we're gonna go ahead and just figure out how many times it should be first. Just to make sure we have the right count here at the end. So it's gonna be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. I want to see 21 at the end of that. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into our player object, and we're going to go into his create event. And you see we have our can move and our player score variables being set up here. So what we can do is we'll go and make a new variable, and we're going to call this variable player moves, and we'll have it start at 0. Nice and simple. So we're going to go into press left first of all, and we're going to add a new variable box, and player moves. I did have that, so correct. Yes, I did. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to set it to a value of 1, and we're going to check our relative box. And if you recall, the relative box makes it add the variable instead of subtract. Instead of changing it, it's going to add it or subtract it if it's a negative number. And then we're going to put it inside of our block, so that way it only adds a move if the player actually moves. Because if you recall, this variable decides whether or not the player is allowed to move at that time. So in this way, it'll only add the +1 when he moves. We're going to right-click this just to make things easier, and we're going to copy. Learn to work smart, not hard. And we're going to paste it in to all 4 of our keys, like so. Now, you think that's it, but that's not, because there's a catch here. Normally, if the room restarts where the player, whatever, player hits spikes, it should wipe out that variable whenever the room restarts. But just in case, it's good to just kind of cover your bases, because down the road we may want to make this guy a persistent object, which means he keeps all of his stats between the rooms. So we're going to go ahead and just reset right there. In our restart key, just go ahead and set it back to 0. Nice and simple. Just to make sure we clean up after ourselves. It's always good to cover your bases in programming. You want to be careful how much that you do, because you don't want to do so much extra work that you end up, just wasting a bunch of your players' resources and memory and all that. But it's okay to do a little bit of cleanup just to kind of cover your bases twice, Make sure everything is nice and taken care of. So we're going to go ahead and hit OK and save. And then we're going to run it. And let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Now here's the catch. We don't actually know how many times we did it, because that was a sample of the fact that variables don't do anything unless you do something with them. The variables are invisible, and it's not going to magically say, hey, here's how many times you move. We can assume that we didn't crash, or we didn't have any errors because the program did not crash. But now we have to display to the player how many times he moved. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to our object exit, and we're going to go to our little piece of code that we wrote last time. And if you recall, we had our little show message program right there. We're going to copy that. Copy and paste is your best friend in programming. And we're going to say moves player moves right there. Hit OK. Hit OK. Save it. Launch it. And it's going to go and compile. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. And there it is, moves 21. So there are a few hiccups with this code. For example, if I snug against this wall and then I start doing right, and hit right a bunch of times, And then I will go complete the level, and you'll see we're gonna have a lot of extra moves that we didn't need to have because I was just slamming into a wall. There's code we can write to further check that kind of stuff. See, we got 44 moves instead of 21 because we started just sniping against the wall. There's code we can write to better clean that up, but we're not gonna look at that at this time because that would probably require, you know, some more complex code that we don't want to get into at this moment. So that's kind of the main thing right there is we can restart our level and we're keeping track of how many times we can move. What we can go ahead and do if we want is we can go ahead, since we have time in this video, we're going to go ahead and make it to where there's a limit on how many times the player is allowed to move, or else you're going to run out of moves and it's going to say, sorry, you got to start over, and it's going to restart the level. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go into our room first, and I want to change this name since this is not going to be our only level anymore. It's going to be room level 1. And we're going to hit OK on that, and then I'm going to make a new object. And I'm going to call this OBJ level 1 control. And a control, or sometimes called a controller, is like an invisible object that just runs code. So that's all this is. So we're going to do no sprite, and we're going to uncheck visible. So this is going to be completely invisible. That's basically a little code block that's going to run. And what we're going to do is we're going to hit create. And we're going to go ahead and drop in our new variable. And we're going to call this, let's see. We'll call it move limit. And it took us 21 moves to get to the end, so let's make it, say, 25. That way they have a little extra room in case they mess up, because this is level 1. We don't want to be that big of a stickler about it. So they got 25 moves to get to the end of the level. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to open up our player object. And we're going to go ahead and go to one of our movement keys. So I'm going to start in the left movement key. Expand this out a little bit. And if you recall, we did one of these little if statements. We're just going to do another condition statement inside of this code block. So this condition is only going to run when this code block runs. And we're going to say if... Okay, we're going to check object at the top. Drop this down, and we're going to select our control. That way we're telling it that this variable is inside of this object and not inside of the player object. And then the variable that we did is move limit, if I'm not mistaken. Let me double check that real quick. I'm always forgetting the variables. Move limit, correct, okay. And it is case sensitive. So if move limit is, and let's see, the value needs to be how many times the player moves, and so it's going to be less than or equal to. So basically what you have here is if the move limit is less than or if it's equal to the amount of player moves, then this is when we're going to say, sorry, you have to restart the level because you ran out of moves. So we're going to do right here. And we're going to do our little message show. What's that? Show message. Okay. Out of moves. Starting level. Hit OK there. And we're going to go back to our main one, and we're going to grab our restart room, and we're going to drop it right there. And notice that everything after our if I put inside of another code block. And so what we need to do is we need to copy this, copy, go into up, paste it at the end like that, paste it at the end there, paste it at the end there. We're gonna hit OK. Save it. Actually, we need to go into our room. Object. Select your object level 1 control. And you can put it anywhere in the room. I usually put them towards like the top in an empty space just so I can always know where to look for it. Save it. Run it. You have to make sure to include the object, otherwise that variable won't be made and we're going to get a big nasty error. Yep. We got an error. So let's see what we got here. We got a fatal error in action 1 with key press event for right key. Okay. Now let's see. We got an error in variable get player moves. At object player gets right. Okay. So what we're going to do. Oh, actually, I know exactly why. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to set this back to self. But the problem is that whenever we set the object, it was thinking both of these were in that object instead of just the main variable. So we're going to go ahead and just put this back on self, and then what you can do is you click, before your variable name, and we're going to do obj underscore level 1 control dot. When you do this, it's telling your program that that variable is inside of that object. So object name dot variable name. And it's kind of like an address to tell it where to go. So we need to go and change that in all of these. And right. Oop, that is the wrong thing. Oh, we need to change that back to self as well. Do it here, back to self. And here, change it back to self. Change the variable name. Hit OK, OK. Save it. Run it. And now we should not get any errors. We can move. And see, it's letting me go because that should not be past my limit. And I'm going to sit here and I'm just going to go up and down, up. Oh, out of moves, restrain level. And see, it restarted. Now, one issue that I'm sure you're thinking is when you give this game to your friend, he has no idea how many moves he has or how many points he has until he gets to the end. So that's going to be one of the things we're looking at in this game. We're actually getting pretty close to being at the end of this tutorial series. There's probably going to be a few more parts of it. What we're going to be looking at to do with this game before we wrap it up and we call it a tutorial series is we're going to have more than one level that you can progress to. So we're going to add like a level 2, a level 3, and then we're going to have, when you get to the end, it's going to tell your score and how many moves out of how many moves you did. And it's going to forward you to the next level. And then when you get to the end, it's going to loop you back, and we're going to actually create a little basic main menu where you have instructions for like directions on how to play the game and a play button. So when you get to the end, it'll loop you back to your menu. And then we're going to have a little interface, just like some little text somewhere on the window that tells you what your score is going to be and how many moves you have and how many moves you've used so that you know how much extra leg work and stuff you can do in your level when you're trying to rack up points and things like that. So we're going to do all of that with this game. And then that's probably going to be about all we do with it. I may come up with one more little trap or something we can add to add a little more variety to the game. Some little things like that, but that's going to be kind of the main focus of the game, because once we have that, you'll be able to boot up your game, have a little menu, run through all your levels, loop back around, you can have directions, you can give it to a friend, say, look at this cool game that I made. And then there'll be other tutorial series that I'm going to be creating for Game Maker as well, that where we can take some new concepts out, and then you're always, of course, welcome to play with your game, do whatever you want with it, be real creative and come up with your own stuff. You've learned enough now to where you've made spike traps and points and things like that. So come up with some new stuff for your game, throw in some new content, shake up, make it some variety. And I'd love to hear from you at jackobuddy@breakblock.org. My email at the bottom. You can kind of share with me what you came up with, or if you have any questions or issues with anything in this video, or if you have any other things you would like to see in this tutorial series before we wrap it up. Drop me an email. And I'll reply pretty quickly, so I'm looking forward to hearing from some of you guys and seeing exactly how it can help you to learn about Game Maker better. Until then, happy programming.